$340. That's what's sitting in a 401k you enrolled in during your first week at your first real job. Because HR sent a calendar invite called Benefits Orientation, and you didn't want to look like the guy who skipped it. You clicked through 11 screens. You picked 2% because the slider was already there. You selected something called a stable value fund because it had the word stable in it, and stability sounded responsible. You have not thought about it since. The $340 has grown to $347 in 8 months. You don't know that. You don't know what a stable value fund is. You're 23 years old, and retirement is a concept that applies to your grandfather, not to someone who still has their parents on their phone plan. You are not thinking about retirement. And that precise, completely understandable, totally human decision not to think about it is going to cost you more than you will earn in the next 4 years combined. Your life has levels. Every level comes with a decision that compounds. Most people don't lose at the end. They lose at the beginning. Level 1, your 20s. The decade that feels fake. You make $38,000 a year. After federal taxes, state taxes, FICA, a word nobody explained, health insurance you barely use, and $294 a month in student loan payments, you take home approximately $2,100 a month. Your rent is $1,150. Your car insurance is $187. You have a subscription to a streaming service you share with 3 other people, and you Venmo your share every month like clockwork because that $4.75 feels like the one bill you actually control. You have roughly $200 left on the 23rd of every month. Retirement feels like a rumor. Here is what nobody tells you at 23. The decade where you feel most broke is the only decade where time is actually on your side. If you put $6,000 into a Roth IRA at age 23 and never added another dollar, not one, it becomes approximately $118,000 by the time you're 67. That's at a 7% average annual return. That's not optimism. That's not a sales pitch. That's arithmetic. Cold, indifferent, completely emotionless arithmetic that does not care whether you understand it or not. It runs in the background like a program you forgot you installed. But you don't put in $6,000. You buy a used couch for $340 on Facebook Marketplace, spend a weekend painting your apartment a color called Coastal Fog, and sign up for a gym membership you use aggressively for 11 days in January. Your 401k balance? $371. Your employer offered a match, 3% up to 3%. You're contributing 2%. You are leaving $760 a year on the table. You don't know this. You were never told this. The HR rep who ran your orientation was covering 7 other new hires that morning and had a dentist appointment at noon. The first rule of your 20s. Compound interest doesn't care how busy you are. It runs whether you participate or not. The only question is whether it's running for you or for someone else. You're 25 now. You got a small raise, $44,000. You moved to a slightly nicer apartment. The commute is better. The kitchen has a dishwasher, which feels genuinely like a luxury. Your retirement balance? $892. The stable value fund continues to do approximately nothing. You continue to do approximately nothing about the stable value fund. For now, these two facts coexist peacefully. That peace will not last. Level 2. Late 20s. The first time it gets real. You're 28. Something happens. It's not dramatic. It doesn't announce itself. Maybe it's a conversation at a friend's birthday where someone mentions they've been maxing their Roth IRA since they were 24, and you nod like you know what maxing means. Maybe it's a Sunday afternoon where you find yourself genuinely worried, not about this month, but about some version of yourself that's 63 and tired and doesn't have enough. Maybe it's just the quiet arithmetic of realizing that 30 is no longer hypothetical. You open your 401k for the first time in 2 years. The login takes 4 attempts. You eventually reset the password. The balance is $2,140. You stare at it for a long moment. $2,140. 5 years of your life. $2,140. You don't close the tab. That's new. Instead, you open another tab and type, "How does a 401k actually work?" Then, Roth IRA versus traditional IRA. Then at some point, employer match explained. And when you read that your company matches dollar for dollar up to 3% and you've been contributing 2%, something small and unpleasant happens in your chest. You've left $3,040 on the table over 4 years. Not because you're irresponsible, because nobody sat you down and explained that the employer match is the single highest guaranteed return available to any investor at any income level anywhere in the developed world. A 100% return, instant, before the market does anything. And you've been walking past it for 4 years like it wasn't there. You fix it immediately. You bump the 401k to 5%. You open a Roth IRA, an actual one, not your friend's dad's opinion of one, and set up a $150 automatic monthly transfer. You put it in a target date fund. You close the laptop. The second rule of your 20s. The employer match is not a benefit. It is a guaranteed return. Every year you don't capture it is a year you chose to take a 100% loss on free money. By 29, the combined balance crosses $8,500. It doesn't feel like anything yet. It's a number on a screen. But somewhere underneath that number, compounding has begun in earnest. You've handed a small amount of money a very long runway. What it does with that runway is going to quietly astonish you. Level 3. Your 30s. The comfort trap. You're 32. You make $71,000. You are good at your job. Legitimately good. The kind of good that gets noticed. That gets you copied on emails you weren't copied on before. That earns you a title with the word senior in it. The apartment is nicer. The car is newer. You have a coffee maker that costs $280 and produces a genuinely excellent cup of coffee every morning. And you have decided this is not an extravagance. It is a quality of life investment. Someone is sleeping in your apartment most nights, or has a drawer of their stuff, or you have combined your streaming subscriptions, which means something, financially and otherwise. The retirement accounts are growing. You're not maxing them. The Roth gets $150 a month. The 401k sits at 5%, but they're growing. The combined balance at 33 is $44,000. You feel, for the first time in your adult life, like someone who is probably going to be fine. Stop right there. Probably fine is the most financially dangerous phrase in the English language. Because here is exactly what your 30s are designed to do. Reward you just enough to make you stop paying attention. Salary goes up. Lifestyle follows. The apartment upgrade costs an extra $400 a month. The car payment is $480. There's a wedding, yours, or a friend's you're in the wedding party for, or both, somehow, in the same calendar year. There is a child, or the planning of one, and the realization that daycare in your city costs $1,600 a month, which is a number that looks like a typo the first time you see it. It is not a typo. Your retirement contribution hasn't moved. Still $150 to the Roth. Still 5% to the 401k. You make $88,000 now. Your retirement savings rate is about 7%. The number you should be hitting is 15%. You know this. You've read it. You tell yourself you'll get there after the daycare years end, after the car is paid off, after the thing that comes after that thing. At 36, you build a spreadsheet. Everyone builds this spreadsheet eventually. It is a rite of passage for anyone who reads about personal finance and owns a laptop and has at some point felt vaguely guilty about a purchase. You project everything forward. Income, expenses, retirement balance at 65. The number comes back. $980,000. You feel okay about that. Almost $1 million. That sounds like retirement. Then you run it through an inflation calculator. At 3% annual inflation, $980,000 in 2057 has the purchasing power of roughly $420,000 today. $420,000 divided across a 30-year retirement is $14,000 per year. You close the spreadsheet. You open it again. You close it. The third rule of your 30s. Lifestyle inflation is not a reward for working hard. It is a silent tax on your future self, and your future self never agreed to pay it. Level 4. Mid-30s to early 40s. The window that actually matters. The daycare years end. You wake up one Tuesday, and the $1,600 a month is simply back. No announcement, no ceremony, just suddenly there, sitting in your checking account like it was always yours. And unlike every other time you've had extra money in your 30s, this time you know exactly where it goes. You max the Roth IRA, $7,000 for the year. You bump the 401k to 12%, then to 15%. The net cost to your monthly take-home after the pre-tax savings is less than you expected. The math, when you actually run it instead of assuming it, is friendlier than the fear of it. You are doing the thing, finally, fully, without the caveat of, I'll do more when. At 39, the combined retirement balance crosses $180,000. You don't throw a party, but something shifts. A quiet, structural kind of confidence. Not excitement. Something calmer than that. The feeling of a foundation that can hold weight. Because here's what $180,000 at 7% average return actually is. It's a machine. Left untouched, it doubles roughly every 10 years. By the time you're 49, assuming no additional contributions, it would approach $360,000. By 59, $720,000. From a single moment where the balance crossed $180,000. But you don't stop contributing. You open a taxable brokerage account. $400 a month into a total market index fund. Expense ratio, 0.03%. This is money outside the retirement accounts. Money that can be accessed before age 59 and a half without penalty. Money that buys options. The fourth rule of your 40s. The goal was never just to retire. The goal is to have choices. Retirement is one choice. Early retirement is another. Leaving a job you hate at 52 without panic is another. These are different destinations. They require different amounts of money and different amounts of planning. At 42, you run a new projection. Current trajectory. Maxed Roth, 15% 401k, $400 monthly brokerage, 7% return. Produces a balance at 65 of approximately $2.1 million. Inflation adjusted to today's purchasing power, roughly $1.1 million. Using the 4% withdrawal rule, $44,000 per year from your portfolio. Add Social Security, projected at $2,050 monthly at full retirement age based on your earnings history, and you're looking at $68,600 per year in retirement income. Your current expenses, $74,000. You are close. Closer than you have ever been to the number having a shape. Level 5, your 40s, the plateau or the pivot. Not everyone arrives at 43 with $180,000. Some people arrive at 43 with $14,000 and a feeling they can only describe as dread with a calendar attached to it. They spent their 30s managing a divorce that cost $22,000 in legal fees, a job loss that lasted 9 months and burned through savings that took 3 years to rebuild, a medical bill that arrived like a brick through a window, decisions that made sense at the time and make less sense in hindsight. They are not a cautionary tale. They are a person to whom several of the things happened that happened to people. They are also not finished. If you are that person, if you're 43 with $14,000 and a feeling, the window is not closed. It is smaller, and smaller windows require more precision. At 50, the IRS allows catch-up contributions. The 401k annual limit, $23,000 in 2024, rises to $30,500. The Roth limit rises from $7,000 to $8,000. If you maximize both from age 50 to 65, that's 15 years of enhanced contributions. At 7% return, those extra contributions alone generate an additional $213,000 beyond whatever you've already accumulated. $213,000 from knowing a rule, from using a window the IRS built specifically for people who are behind. The pivot requires something the plateau doesn't: urgency applied with discipline. This is the decade to cut with precision, not with punishment. To eliminate what doesn't serve the number. To increase income wherever the opportunity exists. To feed every available dollar into tax-advantaged accounts with the single-mindedness of someone who has done the math and understands what the math is saying. The fifth rule of your 40s. Starting late with intensity beats starting early with complacency. Every time. The person who gets serious at 43 and stays serious will build more than the person who started at 27 and coasted. Level 6. Your 50s. The final push. You are 53. Your salary is $118,000. It is the highest number it has ever been, and you are aware, in a way you weren't at 35, that you are now closer to the end of your earning years than the beginning. Your expenses, for the first time in 2 decades, are genuinely lower than your income. The kids are mostly independent. The mortgage has 13 years left, but the payment hasn't moved, and your salary has. The car is paid off. The subscriptions have been audited. The $17.99 ones that survived the audit are earning their place. The retirement balance at 53, $520,000. You have roughly 12 years until traditional retirement age. 12 years. $520,000. At 7% average return. $520,000 in 12 years, without another dollar contributed, becomes approximately $1.17 million. With continued contributions at your current rate, plus catch-up contributions now that you're over 50, the projected balance at 65 is $1.9 million. You can see it now, not as a hope, as a projection with a reasonable probability of accuracy. But there is a threat you need to understand. It doesn't get talked about in the early years because it doesn't apply yet, but now it does. It's called sequence of returns risk. Here's what it means. The order in which the market's good years and bad years arrive matters enormously once you start withdrawing. If the market drops 30% in the first 2 years of your retirement and you're pulling out 4% annually, you may run out of money decades earlier than the math predicted, because the math assumed the averages smoothed out evenly, and they don't. A bad sequence at the start, when your balance is at its highest and your withdrawals are largest, creates damage that a later recovery can't fully undo. The answer is not to panic. The answer is to build a buffer. 2 years of living expenses. In your case, roughly $160,000, sitting in stable, liquid instruments. CDs, short-term treasuries, high-yield savings, money that doesn't participate in a market downturn because it's not in the market. And then there's the Roth conversion strategy. You have the majority of your retirement savings in pre-tax accounts. Every dollar you withdraw in retirement will be taxed as ordinary income. But if you begin converting $25,000 to $35,000 per year now, from traditional to Roth, paying taxes today at your current rate, those dollars come out tax-free in retirement. It requires a tax professional. It requires a spreadsheet and several evenings of focus. For someone at 53 with your balance and your runway, the lifetime tax savings from a well-executed conversion strategy could be $70,000 to $100,000. The sixth rule of your 50s. Taxes in retirement are not a fixed cost. They are a negotiation you can only have before retirement. The people who have this conversation at 53 retire richer than the people who have it at 66. Level 7. Your 60s. The edge of everything you built. You are 64. The balance is $1.74 million. You are 11 months from retirement. Not abstractly, specifically. You know the date. You have told 3 people. You have not told your boss yet. There is one decision left that can cost or save you more than $100,000. Social Security. You can claim at 62. Monthly check, $1,580. You already passed 62, so that option is behind you. You can claim at your full retirement age, 67 for your birth year. Monthly check, $2,280. You can wait until 70. Monthly check, $2,920. The break-even calculation, The age at which waiting until 67 outperforms claiming at 62 is approximately age 78. If you live past 78, waiting was mathematically correct. If you don't, it wasn't. You don't know when you will die. This is the most clarifying sentence in personal finance. The one that cuts through every spreadsheet and every projection and every rule of thumb. The fundamental uncertainty that all of this planning exists around. What you know. Your father retired at 66 and is 80 and still opinionated at family dinners. Your mother is 77. Both grandmothers made it to their mid-80s. You are in reasonable health. You have no pressing financial emergency that requires the money at 64. You wait. You claim at 67. Monthly check, $2,280. Annual, $27,360. The 4% rule, the research-backed framework from the Trinity study, says you can withdraw 4% of your portfolio annually with a high historical probability of not running out of money over 30 years. 4% of $1.74 million, $69,600 per year. Total retirement income, $69,600 from investments, plus $27,360 from Social Security. $96,960 per year. Your pre-retirement expenses, $80,000 annually. Annual surplus, $16,960. You will not be wealthy in retirement. You will be something better than wealthy. Free. The final rule of retirement, it is not a number, it is a ratio. When your passive income exceeds your expenses, the game is over and you won. Everything above that line is just extra. The last day. It's a Thursday, partly cloudy, the kind of day that doesn't commit to anything. You clean out your desk in under an hour. Someone ordered a cake with your name spelled wrong. You eat a piece anyway. You hug a few people, shake hands with several more, take the elevator to the lobby for the last time as an employee of anywhere. The lobby looks the same as it did the first day you walked in. 12 years ago at this job. 9 years ago at the one before it. And further back than that, at a job that paid $38,000 a year, where you spent 45 minutes in a benefits orientation, clicked through 11 screens, and picked 2% because the slider was already there. You step outside. No alarm tomorrow. No 9 a.m. calendar block. No one needs you in a conference room. And then the question arrives. The one nobody in their 20s thinks about. The one no financial calculator addresses. Now what? Not, what do you do with the money? The money is running. The machine is on. The question is older and stranger than that. What do you do with days that belong entirely to you? Most people, when asked this in their 40s, say travel. Spend time with family. Finally read. These aren't wrong answers. They're just the surface of the answer. The full weight of the question only lands on day one, when the structure is gone, when the identity that came with a job title and a badge and a parking space is somewhere between what it was and what it's becoming. No 23-year-old clicking through an enrollment screen at 2% is thinking about this. They're thinking about whether they can afford the nicer apartment. But here's the thing about that 23-year-old. Every time they bump the contribution by 1%, every automatic transfer that went through on a Tuesday morning without fanfare, every year they didn't touch the account during a market drop, every boring, undramatic, unimpressive financial decision they made and then forgot about. It compounded. Not just the money. The decisions compounded. The habits compounded. The knowledge compounded. The person who understood at 23 that $340 in a stable value fund was a beginning and not an ending, who acted on that understanding, even imperfectly, even inconsistently, became the person walking out of a lobby on a cloudy Thursday at 64 with a surplus and a question they are finally free to answer. $340. That was the beginning. $1.74 million. That's what the beginning becomes. If this changed how you think about your future, subscribe to Ken Invests, because the decisions you don't think about today are the ones that decide everything later. Everything in this video is for educational and informational purposes only and is not financial advice.